I'm prompted a little bit by the poll that you shared at the beginning here about performance, particularly of leaders and directors. Business schools, you know, and consultancies, they love to study regularly the challenges for leadership ahead in the coming years or whatever. And I think those challenges fall into two different categories. One category is, how do I lead my business in the environment I foresee for the future, which is not, to be honest, at the moment, full of optimism, is it? But secondly, quite a different thing, how do I lead my people to respond accordingly? Two different really areas of leadership. And the business environment does change. It changes all the time, mostly incrementally, and mostly because of technology, but sometimes disruptively. Today, we also have lots of firms that have to adapt for what we might call planet protection. But the challenges of leading people do not really change radically over many years. And I think they change very little. Whatever the environment, the challenges of leading people are the same, because people are people. The landscape's changed a little on that, particularly of the concept of being in the office, which was a tradition that's now been disrupted and does create additional challenges. But what doesn't change very much at all, challenges may change, but what doesn't change very much at all, I think, are the competencies that are needed in what we might call human capital management. Competencies to deal with whatever managers, leaders have to deal with. And I'm using the term competencies to mean knowledge and skills, particularly people skills, of course. But most of our senior people also have to be leaders and managers. So I'm using that term as well, leader managers. One of my soapboxes, indeed I talked about this a bit last time I was on this, is the demise of management skills at the expense of a cult of leadership. You know, leadership is everything, the HR people will tell you. And actually, we, I think, operate in a country with increasing reputation for managerial incompetence. So the two have really got together, and those sets of competencies are pretty timeless, I think. We can tinker with the wording and the relative importance from time to time, but basically they really don't change that much. We know what they are. I've lived through a number of the alphabetical generations, you know, X and Y and Z, and I don't know where we go from here. And that's why I think that those competencies are the same, but also everyone says we don't have the level of them that we would like to have. And I'm reminded by his character Malvolio with his famous quote in Twelfth Night, "Some are born great," he said, etc., etc. Let me adapt it and say some are born as leaders, some achieve leadership through determined effort and ambition, but some have leadership thrust upon them. And the first category, the born leaders, is unfortunately very small and not nearly enough for the amount of leadership that we need. And the second category, ambition, people who strive to achieve it, yes, we certainly have those. Generally not, though, because of their great desire to lead people, but generally for more other reasons. The reality is, I think, we have an awful lot of people on whom leadership has been thrust. In academia, where I work, I think it's an extreme case where most of the leadership seems to be in the third category. And I've never really experienced such a deficit of the needed competencies as I experienced there. But I think that deficit is not unknown in professional firms either. Leader managers are not usually first promoted because of their people skills, and that's a big problem. HR tries to fight against that, but they're never really going to win that, because people who win business are the people who are the ones we want to promote. That's very understandable. Now, we have many offerings for leadership development, less so in management development, that provide the knowledge and skills needed. But to be honest, I have come to the conclusion there are limits on what you can do. It is a struggle to get someone to be visionary, somebody to see the big picture, somebody to be skilled at internal politics, somebody to think strategically or have difficult conversations with staff if they don't actually have any innate ability or indeed motivation to do that. And that's a challenge, isn't it? What a firm needs, though, is that people are led effectively. And I think that is not the same thing as every leader is a great people leader in themselves. So the challenge to lead our people well, it seems to me, is a collective effort. This tells me how important people management support processes are. I compliment Richard on his mentoring scheme, for example, but it is things like mentoring, things like multi-input feedback. Look at the poll we've just looked at, that help people develop not just vertical feedback, but multiple input feedback, counseling, partnership with HR or people that are experts, other great people managers in the line. Not so much coaching, unless we are confident that that coaching is going to cause change. And also, it is building a culture where seeking support is a positive thing. It's absolutely okay. It is not a mark of I'm not good enough, because leadership in a firm, I believe, should be a collective effort.